All
right, we are live. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Inspiration Podcast. And I'm having a good buddy on today by the name of Amir. Just thought I would give a quick shout out to him and let him shout out his podcast.
Yo, what is up, guys? It's Amir on the mic. I'm super happy and grateful to be on here. This is also going to be featured on my podcast as well. So everyone on Amir Sessions, welcome back to another episode. I know we've been gone for a while, but we're back again. And, I'm very happy and grateful for Ethan and to be a guest on his podcast and for us to get connected. So guys, I hope you're ready for a lot of sauce to be dropped on here.
Let's go. Awesome. So basically, guys, we're just going to be going over all things health improvement today, self-improvement, self-care. We're going to be talking about managing a healthy work-life balance, defining success, investment strategies, yada, yada, yada. We're going to keep it real interesting today. Amir's has a lot of interest in the past in doing stuff like motivational speaking, and I think he'll be a really good fit for today's podcast. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and give me a little intro to yourself, brother, for my audience real quick.
Okay, cool. What's up, guys? Like Ethan said, my name is Amir. I'm 20 years old. I've been doing podcasting for, it'll be 2 years this summer. Absolutely love it. I came in here because I knew that what I wanted to do was greater than what I could see with my own eyes. I knew that I could impact the world. I knew that I could touch people from a different form than just social media alone. I got into podcasting I used to post a lot of motivational videos and motivational quotes on my Snapchat called Amir's Life Lessons. It was a private story. And people kept asking me to, be able to create a podcast, or if there was another way that they could see more and more and more of this, or where they can always go back to it. And that's personally how I got into podcasting, and I absolutely love it. I really want to change the world. Like I said, I'm only 20 years old, so I got a lot of life left to live, and I know that I'm going to do a whole bunch with it. One of my goals is to allow my legacy to touch every single country in the world. I want every country to know who I am and to feel my impact. So
it's a big goal.
Let's go. I'm here to do. Yes, sir. Always. I've heard a quote that said, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. So yeah.
Exactly. It's gotta raise some hair up on your arms there, bro. You gotta get some goosebumps thinking about your goals. You know what I mean?
Easily.
But if you set your goals too small, then what's the point in achieving it?
100%.
Set big, aim big. But the thing about me too is like breaking those down into achievable goals. So taking one large thing, right, and then subdividing it, kind of like you would subdivide land and tackle that and sell the plots of land and stuff like that and profit more. The same kind of thing happens when you set those small goals in the overarching goal that you've set, right? And then build and constantly improve, constantly achieve and hit those mile marks. So you got on into this company called B. And if you haven't heard of B, guys, it's a really dope company. I started talking with my friend Derek, and then Derek got me on the phone with Amir. And you're really young to be doing this kind of stuff. And it's really cool to see that, you've had this success and you constantly are improving and motivating other people. So just tell me how you got into B, man. What is B all about?
Of course. So when I graduated high school, let's go back to the beginning. I graduated at Eastside High School, class of 2019, along with your brother, Graham. After I graduated high school, I was super huge into track, and I had a bunch of scholarships to go run D1, D2, D3, practically all around the country. Unfortunately, had to turn down those scholarships to stay closer to home and help my pops out with my brothers. And I went to Greenville Tech for a bit. And for those of you guys who are not, in our hometown, Greenville Tech is just a community college. And when I was going there, I was super depressed. It was something that I didn't, perceive as, my future. I knew that I was supposed to be doing something else. It didn't feel like my calling. I went through 9 different majors from the beginning of freshman year to the beginning of sophomore year, everywhere from engineering to diagnostic sonography to chiropractics to psychology. I was just all over the place. But the one common denominator that I had between all of my majors was I had the ability to help people. I knew that what I wanted to do in life included, going out and talking and helping people. And I wasn't just stuck at a desk pushing paper, if that makes any sense. So the summer between freshman and sophomore year of college, that's where I actually started my podcast. And a month after that, I'm scrolling through Snapchat and I see one of my buddies that I ran track with. His name was Amir Goodman. and he's posting trading and making money and making withdrawals, and I'm like, this dude's making more money than me in a couple days than what I'm making in like a week or two at my job at Bilo. So I was just like, I'm a curious guy. So I have asked questions because I actually went and fact checked myself just to make sure I had my story right. I swiped up on a story in February of the end of freshman year, right? And I didn't actually join his team with a different company until June 20 something. Right, I think it was June 26th. So I'm pulling up around my 2-year anniversary when it comes to investing. So I was with this company called iMasters Academy or iMarkets Live. They go by either or. And I'll be honest with you, I did not like it. It's not what I thought it was going to be. The results were just not there. I was losing more money than I was making. I think I lost like almost $2,000 in the 4 months that I was there. However, it did have that network marketing side as well, where you could build a team and show others what to do. And that aspect I love. And I loved it so much that within 2 months of being in that building space, knowing that I could impact others, I dropped out of college. Right. A couple months after that, I actually quit my second job at CVS as a pharmacist technician because I knew that this is where I wanted to go. Now, around November of last year, so November of 2020, no, so 2 years ago, we found the company called B. My team and I found the company called B. So we made a decision, the leaders and, myself, we made the decision to come over to this company B. And it wasn't just, like we're just going to rush into something because we see something new. I'm talking about the results were there. Everything was documented. The educators were A1. The technology was something that I've never seen before. Ethan, I mean, you've seen some of the technology yourself. I've never seen anything on the market like it. But not only that, but like I actually felt good bringing people onto a company that I know worked 100% because the results were there. It was documented. The trades weren't sent on some dingy Telegram chat. No, these were actual documented educators who have gone through testing and training, and they have results and everything. Every single trade that they send is documented. That was a huge thing for me, is that I could go back and look at the results even way before I joined the team. Now, B is brand new in the United States. We've only, we're wrapping up our second or third year here. Yeah, third year in the United States. And it's about a 5-year-old company. And what I love about it is that it's a private company, which means that there are no outside investors. And number 2, it's debt free, which means that they don't owe money to anybody, which means that us as consumers, we get to control the narrative of where the company goes. They actually enjoy our insight and they apply it into, the future plans of the company. Now, the cool thing about us being here in the United States is that we have something called a first movers advantage, is that there aren't a lot of people here in the US, only a couple thousand maybe. And that allows us to be in a better position as leadership to control where the US market goes, right? To allow us to, if we want to have discounts on our prices, we can make that suggestion to the brothers, and 9 times out of 10, they'll take that suggestion and put it into place. Or if we're like, hey, we're having this, that, and the third issue when it comes to, let's just say the apps were signing people out or whatever, they can get that issue resolved right away because the owners of the actual company, the Islam brothers, they're very, 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 what's the word? Accessible, right? I can go on Instagram and I can message them, and 9 times out of 10, either them or their assistant will reach back out to us, right? So that's what I really love about it. It allows me to have a place of leadership and allows me to have a place of impacting others. But most importantly, it gives me my time and my freedom back while making money as well.
That's the most important thing, right? The cool thing that I noticed when I joined the team for the short time that I was on the team before I got my job down here and moved down here was that it's a very transparent company. You have the leadership kind of not exposing themselves, but showing what they went through in the past and then helping people improve on that currently, right? So like over the Zoom calls and stuff like that. That was really cool to have those people surrounding you, especially when they're in the higher positions in the company, sharing this experience and sharing that knowledge to the people throughout the ranks. That's how you build a successful business. And I think that they're on the right track with that. So I wanted to ask you something about that actually.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned something about how you have to look kind of outside of yourself when you're searching for your purpose, that you have to look to other people. And I found that very interesting. And I do agree with that. And so would you kind of elaborate on how you've been able to find that to be?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I had to learn in life was you sometimes have to leave the people that you love in order to come back and lead them. Right. So what that basically means is that our families, I didn't come from a very financially intelligent family, in the sense, a very financially literate family. So what that means is that I had to go out and I had to step outside of my family's comfort zone, and I had to be the one to go out there and look for that information, and not only look for that information, but apply it and earn those results in order to come back and be like, hey guys, this is what I found. Look, you guys love me. Please trust me in this movement. Come with me. When I first dropped out of college to do this full time, and not only that, but I quit both of my jobs back in March 14th of 2021, right? I was in B for about 4 months when I was fully retired. Everybody in my family did not like it. They did not approve. They didn't trust. They didn't see the vision. And I'm like, here's the thing, that is okay. You know, it's my dream. I don't expect anybody else to understand it or hell, even respect it. That's not what I follow my dream for. I follow my dream to do what I want, and to do what makes me happy. Now, of course, I love my family and I do cherish their opinion, but, and I mean, no disrespect by this, but there's certainly there's certain family members that I would not take their advice because they're living the exact life that I don't want to live.
Yeah,
If that
no,
makes
exactly.
any sense.
Totally
Right.
makes
So
sense.
when it came to that, you know, in order to leave my family to come back and lead them, I did have to step away. You know, like I had to miss dinners, I had to miss family vacations, I had to miss a lot of family just movie nights or game nights, or, you know, dinners sitting together at the table. I had to miss a lot of that. And did it suck? Most certainly. But, you know, I'm in a position now where I can, you know, come and sit down with everybody or go to a movie night, and I get to control that, you know, freedom with my time, and I get to create my own schedule on a day to day. So is it hard? Most certainly. Is it worth it? Most certainly.
Very
So
rewarding.
100%,
It's,
100%.
you know, this reminds me of a concept that I've done a little bit of studying on. It's called Wu Wei. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a
I've heard of
Chinese
it. I've
principle.
heard of it.
Basically, I mean, the literal translation is do nothing, but that's definitely not representative of what it is. It's kind of like taking a momentary kind of hit so that you could better prepare for the future. So like right now, you're taking the downfall so that you could set yourself up and build up that momentum for the future to that big payout, right? To when you can come back and lead your family or something like that, which is really cool. So also, I wanted to bring up another subject that it seems you're really, really good at managing, and that's the work-life balance. So you know, tell me a little bit about that. Like how important is that, especially in your success at B, in your success in the personal life?
Okay, so let's look at this. For those of y'all who are listening, I want you to imagine a seesaw, right? So it's tilting left and right, up and down. And imagining that's your work-life balance, right? People are going to think that you need to have 50-50 life balance. But what I'm going to tell you guys is that your seesaw is not moving. And with it not moving, there's absolutely zero momentum in either side of your life, right? If you're not moving, there's going to be no momentum in either your work life or, you know, or in your just life, right? So what I had to learn is sometimes you do have to take away from your personal life to put more effort into your business. And it's like you were saying, just people just need to, you know, sacrifice. Now, I don't even like to use the word sacrifice, because when you use the word sacrifice, people are thinking like you're losing something, right? If I sacrifice my right arm, then I'm losing my right arm. And I don't want people to look at, you know, this opportunity or just, you know, being successful in life as sacrificing something that you already have. But I would like to look at it as rather you're investing into something else, right? Because when you invest into something, are you expecting a return right then and there? No. You're expecting a return later on in life, whether it's a short-term investment or a long-term investment. You got to make that decision for yourself. I believe the biggest problem with our generation today is a lot of people would settle for temporary pleasure for long-term suffering. And what that means is that they'll, go and do the quote unquote college life, go 6 figures in debt to go work, a 50 grand a year job, go out and party every weekend, multiple nights, not study, not invest into themselves, but invest into somebody else. Like if your calling is to work for some big law firm, or to work for a big corporate job, or to work in a warehouse or whatever, that's completely okay. But make sure that 99% of your time isn't just investing into another man or a woman, but also take some of that away and invest it into yourself.
Kind of like investing in stocks a little bit, diversifying your
little bit
portfolio, putting your eggs in
100%.
different baskets.
100%. Just make sure that majority of your eggs aren't in somebody else's basket, right?
Exactly.
And when it comes to managing that work-life balance, I think the 100%, the biggest caterer to my success was a schedule, right?
Yeah.
I stuck to a routine, and it's not easy, but like I said, it's worthwhile, because one of the hardest and easiest things to do is to write a schedule and follow it. Right? Because if you write that schedule, I used to every single night at 11 p.m., I used to write my entire schedule for the next day. And I mean, Ethan, I'm talking about when I woke up, when I used the bathroom, when I ate, when I, showered, when I went to go and exercise, when I went to go and run Zoom calls. And that was to make sure. And I'm going to tell you guys that I was typically working from 11 a.m. to probably 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Right. And I'd only sleep a couple hours in the night. And then from about 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. was my me time. And then I'd go back to sleep. I'd wake up and I'd do it all over again. So creating that schedule to make sure that you are accomplishing every single thing. And, if you look around my house, like just in arm's reach, Ethan, I have a whiteboard right behind me. I have a whiteboard right in front of me. I have a whiteboard right here next to me. And this one is just a calendar. The Zoom is not going to allow me to show it.
Not going to see it.
But having whiteboards around all my house, and they're super cheap. You can go to Walmart and grab one for like $9, and just hanging it in your room or somewhere that you're going to see it every day. There's an actual study done on this, is that if you write down your to-do list, you're going to, one, be a lot more productive, but number two, when you're actually crossing off those to-do lists, it's going to send dopamine into your body and into your brain, and it's going to encourage you to want to do more and more things every single day, because not only are you getting it done, but you're getting it done in the timely manner that you wanted it to be done.
Exactly.
So,
that's just something that we really integrate into our processes here at Toggle. Every time we complete a task, there's a little button that you turn it from red to green. And just that little thing, it seems really small, but if you consistently are hitting those mile marks, those checkpoints, it's kind of like breaking down a run. I talked about this in one of my podcasts. Instead of just saying, I'm going to go on a 30-mile run, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 31-mile runs. And every single time that I hit that 1 mile, I'm rewarding myself. And that helps build that structure. And also what you were talking about with building a schedule, man, that's how you structure your life. And without structure, 100%. It's haphazard, and you need to narrow down, kind of put horse blinders on what you're really specifically focused on in the moment. For me, when I was making that podcast that I just dropped this season, I really had to immerse myself in it. I was like you, I was up at 7 o'clock to go to work. And then right when I get off work, I would study until 2-3 a.m. And at that point, it doesn't feel like work, but I'm constantly adding to my script. I enjoy it and I love it. So that's one thing that was big for me. And, when you got into B, one important thing about business, man, obviously, this, is that you have to take on a little bit more than you think you can handle. And
100%.
So going out and getting out of your comfort zone, kind of getting out of that confinement. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So what I tell people when they first come in, and I told you this as well, when you first come in, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. It's a lot of information to take in. And, I try to give my people like quote unquote homework, like, hey, make sure you knock out these videos first. So that way you have a prerequisite of what you're entering into. But when people tell me like, hey, this seems it's just a lot, man, it's overwhelming. And I'm like, that's okay. But you came in here to earn an overwhelming amount of money, correct? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so then you got to take on a little bit of what you're doing. And when people join my team, I think there's a lot of misconception on social media when it comes to like these Forex companies or crypto companies or whatever. And trust me, there are people who bring people in for the sole purpose of just making money or earning a paycheck off of people. But I can tell you, and, Ethan, like I said, you can back me up on this, is like, I contact every single person who is on my team to make sure that they're still on track, making sure that they're, being successful in whatever their definition of success is, whatever their goals are. I ask people that because I want to help people achieve these goals. And when people are joining my team, I let them know, like, you're not joining this for me, but you're joining this for yourself, because you told me you wanted to do this and the third. You told me that you were tired of your job. You told me that you wanted to retire your parents. You told me that you wanted to give back to your parents, that you want to give back to your community, that you want to make sure that your future children never have to live a life that, that you went through and that you grew up in. And I'm like, I'm here to help you do that. But a lot of people, they lack that discipline, and they lack that, creating a schedule, and they lack that drive and that willpower. And I believe that is the number one downfall when it comes to people joining any type of team, or people just investing into themselves. I let people know that, like, hey, what you're putting money into is not me. I don't see a single penny that you're putting into this opportunity. There are only two people that see your money, and it's going to be one, the market in of itself, and number two, the company. But the company that you're paying for is just college. It's like college. You're paying for education. It's just different levels of it. And I believe that's where the huge misconception comes into place. And it's just like, dude, you're just investing into yourself. I'm just trying to help you. What people don't understand is that when you're paying for B, it's not like college in the sense of I'm paying for professors to teach me. I'm not a professor. I'm another student just like you, but I'm just like a senior and you're a freshman, and I'm just helping you, through the ropes, right? I'm not required to hop on a Zoom call and break down how the market works. I'm not required to put everyone in a group chat and make sure that we're all well connected. I'm not required to, connect you to Sal, right? Which is my mentor. But I still do that because I know it's going to help people, and I know it's going to become beneficial in all areas and all people, because that's what I care about.
That's how you keep people too.
Exactly.
That's how you keep people in the companies, by consistently providing value to them.
And it's not only that, but it's like, you tried it out for a month and you say, hey, this is not necessarily something that's not for me, but in the space that I'm in life right now, is I just don't have the time and the energy to put it towards. And I'm okay with that, right? I realize, like, this opportunity is not for everybody, but it's for anybody, right? And even though, you're still not 100% into this opportunity, we can still have that connection where we can do stuff like this. Because I know a lot of people who do get salty when people leave the business and they completely alienate them. And I'm like, no, man, those are still my dogs. Like, I'm still going to reach out to folks and make sure that they're doing okay, because, your network is your net worth. Who you know is how much you make. And you never know. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, dude, you could 100% come into this space and make 10 times more money than I am. I know people who come in months after or years after that I've been here, and they come into space and they have a natural knack for trading, and they come in, they may, yo, I just had $1,000 day. I'm like, yo, that's amazing. Like, excuse me. I'm going to get lit with you. I'm not going to, be salty about it, or, be like, oh, wow, I can't believe bro just made more money than me. Like, and there are some people who do that, but I'm like, nah, man, I'm here to help you become successful. I'm here to help you make more money. So who am I to, downplay your success?
Well, and obviously they're doing something that the person, who's trying to push it down isn't doing. And so maybe they can learn something from them. You know what I mean? Treat everything, especially when you bring on new people, like bringing on new ideas or new possibilities to learn something. So you manage investments. Explain to me what the best investment like strategy is for you. I know that, like, when we come in, we talk about, we can't have FOMO, can't fear of missing out, because that causes bad trades. Also, bad pullouts. So, elaborate on your investment kind of vehicle. Like, I know you're talking a lot about investments in the market and stuff like that, but B's kind of a mix of different kinds of investment. It's sometimes Forex, and sometimes you're trading crypto as well. What's been the best route for you?
So the number one thing that I would say is always invest into yourself. That's number one.
Yeah,
And
of course.
invest in yourself in the sense that you know what you're doing, you have the education, you have the knowledge, and you most certainly make sure you invest into yourself to where you have the confidence to enter these trades, right? What I truly love about B is that they have all these different avenues for investments. They have the foreign exchange market, which is the largest financial market in the world, $7.7 trillion every single day. They have indices and stocks. They do have crypto. They have binary and options trading. So there's all these different things that you can enter, and just find the thing that clicks for you. Now, I'm not a huge binary and options trading fan. I did it for a little bit. I made some money. That's not something that I was huge on. My fiance, however, when she first joined the team, she literally flipped, I think it was like $100 to $1,000 in like 30 minutes. And I was just like, that's insane. And I'm like, dude, this is something that you have a knack for. Crypto is pretty cool as well. I'm not a huge crypto trader. I'm a huge crypto investor. I follow what Relic gives out in those trades. I'm not really, someone to look in the market for that. I typically look on like crypto.com or Uphold and just see what needs to be invested in, and I throw money into that. But the two things that I'm really huge on when it comes to trading is going to be the foreign exchange market and the indices / stock market. So US 30, the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, S&P, Fortune 500. These are indices that I trade in, especially the US 30 and NAS 100 and the German 30. So it's like the German version of the Dow Jones. So this is what I tell folks is that there is no right way to invest. There are better ways. There are ways that work for you better, but what works for me may not always work for you. And what's broken, don't necessarily have to fix it. Right. So if I find a strategy that technically works for me, so I'm a London / New York trader, right? So what that means is that there's different sessions that you can trade in, depending on, where in the world the banks are the most active. So the London session is like, the Europe session and whatnot. And then the New York is obviously here. And that typically ranges. London starts around 3 a.m. and New York starts around 8 a.m. And that's typically, like I said, that's like my free time. That's typically my me time. I'm not typically on calls. I'm not running around doing errands. And that's typically my favorite time to trade because it's quiet. I don't have to worry about a whole lot of people hitting me up. There's always there's support and resistance. There's looking at liquidity in the market. There's also what I love about B is that they have so many AI scanners. You can put in your preference when it comes to indicators or strategies, and it will call out a trade for you. So it saves you that time and money and energy of having to go and mark up a chart, on Sunday and checking it on Wednesday. Entering, I typically trade Tuesday through Thursday. I don't like trading on Sundays and Mondays. That's when the bank opens. And I don't like trading on Fridays because that's typically when the bank closes. So Tuesday through Thursday is where I see the most liquidity, the most volatility in the market. And that's when I like to get in and out.
Gotcha. And you're most likely all the way long-term holds on crypto. You don't set the
crypto. I like to say I set it and forget it.
I do the same thing. Yeah. It's one of those things where you kind of do, you have to do that. You know what I mean? You got to pick a good one that you believe in and you got to put your money into it and just wait. That's what I've done.
And when the crypto market drops, people will get scared and like they want to sell it. I'm like, no, man, that's just crypto on sale. I'm like, crypto's on sale. Yeah. So
it is.
Just buy
some. It is interesting though, how we're going to see in the future, how it's going to go, how, what crypto is going to turn into. And I think 100%. Those long-term holds are a very, very good long-term play because I see in the future kind of shifting. Actually, my podcast that I did yesterday with Easton Gladney, we were talking about this a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that with an NFT dude.
Yeah. He's big into NFTs, man. Yeah. He only buys and holds NFTs now. He trades NFTs too. So he kind of got out of the crypto. And focus specifically on the NFTs. It's so cool, bro. It's like a whole new financial market that's kind of growing on itself. And there's all these integrations that we didn't know could exist in a financial institution 100%. That are now coming to light.
I mean, like 9-year-olds in India and Pakistan are, learning code and they're making $300,000 just off of NFTs that they coded up and they marketed, which is insane. So
I have another question for you on this. Where do you think that value is derived? From like the NFTs and stuff like that. There's many ways to derive value in that. And I'm just curious, what you think the value in NFTs is, if you do think there's value.
So I think in a real life scenario, it doesn't, hold a lot of value, especially in our day and age. But I believe that it's going to hold a lot of value, especially as we take this shift into a physical, into a digital world, with Meta and the Oculus Quest. I think they renamed themselves the Meta Quest or something like that, Meta Oculus or something like that. As we take step into this virtual world, where I was trying to explain it to my future father-in-law, where he's completely into he's completely oblivious to any of this, and to him it doesn't make sense, and he hates it. And I tried to explain it to him, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, you hate it in the sense because you feel like there's going to be that disconnect in society between people. But I believe what it's going to do is, like, imagine if you're in a wheelchair all of your life, and you're going to be limited to your experiences in life, but imagine that you can throw on a pair of goggles and some gloves and maybe some footwear, and you can actually feel sand in between your toes, because into the metaverse, you're sitting there on a beach or going to a concert and getting to experience, people around you and the sound, because you throw on some really nice headphones and you throw on those goggles. Or maybe Elon Musk Neuralink is going to allow you to actually feel what it's like. I mean,
I will not be putting one of those in.
Yeah, that's personally something that I'm not going to, but I do know a lot of people who
Did you see the video of the monkey?
That.
The monkey playing the video game?
I've seen a reel on it on Instagram, but nothing to where I remember it identical.
Okay. All right. So they taught this monkey how to play Pong on the screen.
Oh, yep.
And it was used. I'll just explain it for the audience if you don't know. So they taught this monkey how to play Pong, and it was just using pretty much one of those little controllers with it plugged into the computer. And then they put a Neuralink. Well, I think they put the Neuralink in while it was learning this, so it could learn the motor functions. And then they unplugged the machine, and the monkey was able to play Pong with his brain, like completely with his brain. No motor controls, nothing. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
but
it's really insane.
I won't be putting it in. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's just scary. It's also scary, a type of exciting. Just to see where the world's going to come into, and how we're going to play our role into society, especially into this digital day and age. I think the biggest difference between us and our parents and their parents' generation is that we question everything that they followed so blindly. You got to go to college, you got to get this job, you got to marry and have kids and have a house and have a mortgage by this age and all of that, invest into a 401k. I think 401ks are useless right now, especially like if your 401k is gaining 4, 5, 6, even 7% a year, and inflation's at 7.5%, you're losing money. You're losing value in that money when you could invest it into crypto, where it's gaining anywhere between 10 to 20% daily.
I think for the traditional person, that's a hard move to make.
Exactly.
Trying to convince the older generation. I'm not saying one way is right or another. And I think it's personally very much a good choice to keep your portfolio diversified between the two right now.
100%.
But yeah, a lot of people just don't like the idea of it. They don't like the idea of the digital thing. And we were talking about earlier, how you could put on the metaverse mask or whatever, and then go into the metaverse and you could feel the sand between your toes. I was having a conversation with my dad about this, and he said, yeah, even though I could feel it, even though I'm in the virtual thing, if it's perfect, he's like, it won't be the same, because there's something about the real world. Right. And like when you walk outside without your shoes, you have an ion transfer between your feet in the ground. And that's a natural thing that I don't 100%. Think can be replicated fully in that. And also one more thing that I wanted to touch on before we move on to another subject, the whole NFT things and finding value in that. I think that you can find value in the NFTs when it comes to real estate. Me and my buddy were talking about this
100%.
And how you could tokenize a house and then make it so that more people can buy into the steady appreciating values of the real estate market. Because right now that's very much a centralized market that is a lot of people have a lot of money or a few amount of people have money invested into, and they kind of run it. I'm talking few, like relative to the US population here.
Yeah.
But that will make the average person more capable of investing in that thing. And I think that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I mean, even like I think Nike sold an NFT of a shoe for like 30 grand. And it's like, here's the thing, nobody's ever going to actually wear that in the real life. And although I think it's exciting, I'm worried about the future in the sense that people are going to be rich, in the metaverse, but broke in real life. You know, they're gonna have some shitty rundown apartment, but you know, in the digital world, they're living, you know, this fantastic life. And I feel like, you know, it can cause a degree of neglect for people in their personal life and their personal hygiene and what they actually surround themselves, because you know they're gonna enter into reality and realize just how much their life actually sucks, and then go back into that NFT, you know, virtual space. And I feel like that's a dangerous game, because again, you always want to invest into yourself at the end of the day and make sure that you're good before you invest into anything else.
Yeah, it'll be like Wall-E on steroids.
Yeah, literally.
And that's where that disconnect comes in. You know, you're going to have that portion of society who feels really powerful inside the simulation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come back to the real world, they're like, oh shit, I don't want to be here anymore.
Like Ready
and then
Player One.
Yeah, they're gonna get out of the metaverse. They're gonna use the restroom. They're gonna eat some food, and then they're gonna go right back in, and that's gonna be their life. And you know, that's where I see society eventually, you know, going in two different directions.
Yeah, and it's like you have those people who are on top of the food chain who are like, I'm never allowing my kids to touch any of these things, while they're like a portion invested into those things. So it's insane.
It is insane. You said something once in your podcast that I thought I would ask you about. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
when you it's actually a quote by Eric Thomas. And the way that I perceive the quote, so I love quotes, dude. I'm an absolute
you're a quote guy.
Yeah, I love them. I start off every single podcast with a quote, and that's because I use quotes to depict the type of imagery that I'm feeling in that moment, or depict the imagery of my life. And what I really love about that quote is when I hear that quote, I imagine a crossroads, someone stuck at a crossroads. And I believe that what you tell yourself is the reality that you're going to live in. So if you tell yourself that you can do something, then that's the reality that you're going to throw yourself into. And that's the type of belief that you're going to have within yourself, and the belief and the confidence that you're going to have into your choices. But if you tell yourself that you can't, then you're also 100% correct, that you cannot complete those actions or those dreams or those goals that you are striving to achieve for, because that's the reality that you put yourself in, when we all know that we are capable of these certain choices, but we tell ourselves that we can't. It's like the example that comes off of the top of my head is addicts, right? That they tell themselves, I can't. So you know, just a little bit about me is that I've made a promise to myself that I will never drink and that I will never smoke. I never have and I never will. And you know, that's not a jab at to anybody who does. Like, you know, do what you want. You know, I'm not here to certainly judge anybody, but these are my personal choices. And, you know, when I'm out with the team or out with friends or, you know, whatnot, and people are like, oh, bro, do you guys drink? Like, do you want to drink or whatever? I'm like, you know, man, I'm going to respectfully decline. That's not, you know, that's not my thing. That's not something that I do. And they're like, man, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, but you can, but you've told yourself the reality of, drinking is for me. I can't do anything but drink, right? Yeah. I don't have the opportunity to stop. My dad was a huge smoker. He smoked practically 98% of my life. And he actually has been a little over 1 year clean of smoking. And it took a lot of personal development for him to realize he doesn't actually need that cigarette, right? So now he lives in a reality where he's just like, I don't need the cigarette to, you know, calm myself. I can actually work through, you know, my issues in life, or work through my anger at the workplace, or whatever the case may be. He's been able to overcome that. So yeah,
that's a great story. You know, I made a podcast a little while ago when I was saying you got to stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. And that's another great quote, honestly, because when you constantly are listening to yourself, that's where the negativity takes over, because your subconscious brain is like, I can't, because we're logical creatures, right? And we try to find a logical solution to things that we don't need a logical solution to, because sometimes it'll work out once you put yourself into that and you immerse yourself in that situation. And so part of it is by constantly affirming yourself, constantly bringing up that idea that, yeah, I can, yeah, I can, yeah, I can. And you got to consciously do that. So it's the conscious brain versus the subconscious, in my opinion, in that one. So,
and I think what people don't understand is that voice inside of your head that's telling you that you're not good enough, or that you can't do it, or you deserve all the bad things that are, coming in your direction, whatever the case may be, is that it's not actually your voice. Human beings aren't born with a natural, negative sense, or, a natural sense of down talk upon yourself. These are all the voices of family members or friends or society or, social media that are telling you that you're not good enough, or that you weigh too much, or you're not pretty enough, or, that you're worthless, or, you deserve all these bad things that are coming into your direction. These are the voices that were planted into you. These are opinions that were planted into you. And just like you said, you got to stop listening to yourself, because it's not actually yourself that are telling you these things. It's all these people that are outside of yourself and outside of your being. And you need to start talking to yourself more and telling yourself, hey, no, you are worth this. You do deserve to eat, or you do deserve to live, or you do deserve, I had a conversation with a teacher on Facebook, and, he was telling me in his comments, and he was like, yeah, man, I have everything that I need, so I can't complain. And I'm like, having everything that you need is not necessarily living. You're just alive. I was like, I want to have everything that I want as well. You know why? Because I deserve that. Why can't I have everything that I want? Why should I only have everything that I need? Because, that's what society tells me. Like, dude, as long as you have everything that you need, you're good to go from there. I'm like, no, I want everything that I want as well. And there is that, lack of, or there is that sense of selfishness. And I think in certain scenarios that it's okay, because if it does bring you that sense of happiness where you're not harming yourself or anybody else in the process. And look, choosing happiness, again, the word that I'm going to use is choosing, because you have to choose happiness every single day. You have to choose to be happy every single day. You have to look inwards for that, and not outside, or not into outside sources. And in choosing happiness, you are going to step on some toes. Maybe it's your narcissistic mother, or your, your friend who's a user, or whatever the case may be. But you have to set those boundaries, and you have to look for that happiness, and know that it will step on some toes. And sometimes, those people that you step on, sometimes they run away, sometimes they walk away from you, sometimes they turn their back on you, and you have to be okay with that, because it's one of two things. You either are putting food on someone's plate, or you're taking food off of yours, right? So I messed that up. Either you're taking food off of your plate and putting it onto someone else's, or you feed yourself first. Right? Because if you're going to, it's like, when was the last time you were on an airplane, Ethan?
It's been a couple of years, probably 3.
Okay, so if you actually listen to what the flight attendant says, they tell you to put your mask on first. God forbid an accident happens and the oxygen mask drops. They tell you to put your mask on first before you help anybody else. And that's not because you don't love your children or your friends or your family, or maybe even that stranger in front of you. But that's if, let's just say you got 3 or 4 kids, and you got a wife, and you're sitting there and you're putting on a mask on every single one of them. Who's going to put your mask on for you first? You're stuck, struggling because you helped everybody else who was struggling, and now you're sitting there, and God forbid you might die, right? Yeah. But if you put your mask on first, you set yourself square, and now you're like, okay, now I can go and help everybody else. Now you're in that position to not take food off of your plate, but to add something else onto somebody else's. So yeah. I think
the more you take care of yourself, the more possibility you have in helping other people.
Yeah, right? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Yeah, because you have to define yourself before you can go out and help other people. You also said something that was interesting to me. If you're struggling to move forward, look to your sides. Mm-hmm. That was cool.
So the example that I used when I was talking about that, wow, that's a really old quote that I use.
Yeah, I went back, man.
I think that was like the discipline one. I think that was the discipline or fear one. So the example that I use for that is sometimes when we're moving forward in life that we feel stuck, right? We feel like we're not actually gaining anywhere. But what that really means is that we have something attached to our feet. It's kind of like a chain, a ball and chain, right? That's what I like. And sometimes that's friends, sometimes that's family, sometimes that's society, sometimes that's insecurity, sometimes that's fear. But you don't feel stuck unless you're trying to move, because if I'm in a standstill, I'm not moving. I'm not going to feel any tension pulling at me. But if I'm moving forward, I'm going to feel that tension. And that means that we're going in the right direction. And instead of looking back to see all those things that are, holding on to you, look to your left, look at your right, look at the people that are supporting you, look at the positive things in life, look up, look forward. Because sometimes when we're, we sometimes we put our heads down. I like to think of it as track, because I ran track, or even playing football. Sometimes when we're trying to tackle someone, we put our head down and we're just going to push forward. Or when we're, coming out the blocks in a race, we have our first driving phase. And that means we're just putting our heads down and we're just running and we're just pumping our arms. And we got to remember to sometimes look up, look to our sides, remember why we're doing this, and look to the positive things in life. Because if we keep looking back onto society, if we keep looking back on our insecurities, and we keep looking back on our friends and family who tell us that we can't, then we're never going to move everywhere, because we're just going to look back and we're going to see how big that ball and chain is. And we're going to think, I'm never going to move forward with this attached to me.
That was great. All right. Do you find yourself, or do you define yourself?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because you mentioned that quote. I'll just help you refresh your memory a little bit on what you said. You said that, I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast too, but when it comes to finding yourself, you got to look kind of externally too, to other people. You can't find all the answers within, and that you have to hunt to find yourself. So do you find yourself, or do you define yourself by looking for yourself?
I'm going to say both. All right. And I have a perfect example for this. So I want you to imagine that life is a blank canvas, and when you are born, you're just a big block, right, of whatever they make statues out of. So you're just a big block and you're an empty piece of canvas. So in life, your canvas is going to paint itself. Right. Sometimes you'll make a mistake and you either can cover up that with a different color or a different image, or sometimes you can even incorporate that into your life, incorporate that mistake and be like, I'm going to embrace this. This is a part of who I am. And on your deathbed, whatever that canvas looks like, that's your life. Right. But at the same time, you're also that piece of block that when you're born, you can shape yourself into what you want. You can choose to chisel away at the things that you don't like and perfect yourself, or mold yourself, or sculpt yourself into what you believe. Because man is not only the sculpture, but he's also the sculptor. Right? He chooses what he is going to chisel himself into, while life is being painted for him according to his decisions and according to his life choices. So I believe it's both. You can find yourself by chiseling away at the things that you don't want, but you can also define yourself by painting that canvas of what you choose life is going to look like for you.
That's
you
perfect.
may not always get to choose. Things happen. Sometimes your parents get divorced, or sometimes you're just dealt with the wrong cards in life, and those are those mistakes, quote unquote, in the canvas that people will call them. But like I said, you can either choose to embrace those mistakes and be like, hey, you know what, this happened, I'm going to embrace that. Like I believe that my parents getting divorced is a huge part of me becoming into who I am today, or like me living in the Middle East and going through that struggle of like, some days we took a shower out of a pot of warm water that we warmed up on the stove. Right. I choose that to embrace, who I am. I don't try to hide that or cover it up with a different color or a different image, or, try to disguise that as to something else. And some people can, and that's okay. But I'd just rather choose to embrace that.
That's great. Yeah, I read this quote once. It was by an ancient Greek philosopher, and he was pretty much talking about how every single experience that you have in life is either it either benefits you, it either refines you, you learn from it, or something else. And no matter what the situation is, you could find a takeaway from it, and that's really connected to that school of thought called Stoicism. And I know you know about that as well.
It's just about perspective in life and how you choose to look at it.
That's awesome. It's like driving down the road, right, on a highway, and somebody cuts you off. That's outside of your control. And you could either choose to kind of get mad at that person, be like, this person cut me off, and then kind of get in a bad mood yourself. So that at that point, you're letting it affect you. Or you could take the third person view and just be like, yeah, no big deal, right? Just he cut me off. I couldn't control that. It's like walking outside and getting mad at the rain kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's raining. It's raining. Okay. It's only going to affect you if you let it. And that's one thing. You have to have a gauge for things that you let affect you and things that you don't let affect you. And so how important, man, is it in keeping commitments to yourself constantly? Like when you make yourself a promise, like something like this, I want to get in shape, or I want to lose X amount of pounds, or just whatever your goal is. How important is it at consistently meeting those commitments to yourself?
It's 100% the most important thing I believe that you can do in life. When people tell me that they lack self-confidence or they're insecure to who they are, I automatically know that they struggle with keeping promises to themselves, right? Because when you tell yourself, I'm going to work out, or I'm going to do this, that, and the third, and you don't actually follow through that commitment, you're going to be sitting on your bed or sitting on your couch or sitting in your car or at work, and you're like going to be like, fuck. Oh, am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You're going to be sitting there. You're going to be sitting there and you're going to be like, fuck, like, I didn't do what I wanted to do. And you're just going to it's just going to throw you more into that cycle of despair and self-hate and self-insecurity. And that's good for nobody. Until you choose to get up off of your ass and actually, make that decision, like, hey, I made this promise to myself that I'm going to get up and jog a mile every single day. I made that promise to myself that I'm going to stop eating out, and I'm going to, choose to stay at home. I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop smoking weed, or I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes, or whatever the case may be. I feel like to get there, you have to get to a point of where you're tired of being tired. Right. If that makes any sense. And that's how I got to where I'm at. I was, I graduated high school. I was in college. I was completely, depressed. I hated what I was doing in life. I was working, 2 full-time jobs. Well, not 2 full-time, but I was working 2 jobs, 40 plus hours a week, CVS as a pharmacist technician, as well as a bookkeeper at Bilo. And I'm in college for 17, 18 credit hours. And I was just completely unhappy. I was like, this is just not what I wanted to do in life. And, people tell me, you're 18 and, you just do what you got to do. And I'm like, although I do believe in sometimes you got to do what you got to do in order to do what you want to do. I believe there's also that sense of like, hey, if I put in, enough effort into what I want to do, you can, make that into a habit and make that your actual lifestyle. It's just all about willpower. And I was just tired of being tired, of getting up at 7 a.m. and, clocking in, or going to my 8 a.m. class, and then, working from 2:30 to 10 o'clock, closing at Bilo, and then coming home, and then, finishing up homework, and then going to sleep. And it was just that same mundane experience. And I believe, yes, while having a routine and having a schedule is important, add every single day at least 1 hour of doing something new, doing something spontaneous to where you're just not bored. I believe that's going to keep you going every single day, where you're not stuck in a routine, because your body doesn't want to get up from bed because it knows exactly what it's going to do every single day, because you've been doing that every single day. If you give your body and your mind something to look forward to every single day, it's a lot easier to get up in the morning and then do all the things that you have to do, because you get to do that one thing that you want to do.
Exactly. And the more you put yourself into that, the easier it is to do it every day. Like you said,
100%.
When you start getting that, it's kind of like muscle memory, right? Whenever you learn to type, or when you're beginning to learn how to type, it's really difficult, but the more time you spend in doing it, it becomes natural. And that comes with anything that we do in life. And the more that you dive into your interests, the more interesting it'll become. And then the more you'll actually do it without having to work on it, right? Without having to actually force yourself to get up in the morning and go and do that. So that's a really important part.
Don't quote me on this, but I think I read something. It was like, it creates 7 days. It takes 7 days to create a routine, 30 days to create a habit, and then 90 days to create a lifestyle. So if you can just stick it out for those 3 months, for those 90 days, and it's not like you're not doing it for anybody else but yourself. And I feel like you got to look at yourself in the mirror, because it's something that I've had to do multiple times. And you got to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I love myself enough to change the things that I hate about myself. Right. And I think until you find that level of self-love, you're just going to be still in that same routine.
Yeah, I like that. So I want to ask one final question, right? Just to wrap this up, because I think we've really hit all the points that we set out for ourselves today. So how would you define success both in the industry that you're in and also in the personal life? And how are those two correlated?
I think they're both the same. I don't think that there is a decorrelation of the two. I don't think that there. I
Okay.
think that success in all areas is going to have some correlation, and that's when you get up in the morning and your feet touch the ground, you're happy to do what you do. Right. I think success is on a spectrum. Some people, that's to become one of the richest people in the world. And some people, it's like, hey, I just want to be able to swipe my card and not have to worry about it declining. Some people are like, hey, I just want to be happy with what I have. Or some people like success is having that car or having that house or having, a family with a white picket fence. Some people that's, having a 800 credit score. I think success, ranges on a spectrum of whatever the people desire. I feel like that's what success really is what are your desires in life? The more and the bigger your desires are, the higher your level of success is going to be. But I believe the common denominator of every single definition or every single level of success is going to be just waking up in the morning and your feet touch the ground, you're happy and you're excited to get moving. Because do I think I'm super successful? No. Do I think that I've attained certain levels of success? 100%. Right. I wouldn't define myself as successful, just as to what my definition of success is. But I will admit that I have attained certain levels of success that would be defined by societal norms.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Inspiration Podcast. I was really excited to have this podcast. It was a great talk, Amir.
Love it.
Thank you for coming on. He's going to shout out his podcast one more time before he closes too, just so you guys can go over and show him some love because he posts stuff like this on the daily.
Before I give off on my outro, Ethan, this is a question that I ask to every single guest that I'm featured on or that are featured onto my podcast, and I have two questions for you. Number one, are you happy?
Very, very much so. I'm happy because I do what I get to do. I get to make money. I get to support myself, and I'm very, very happy with what I do. And I that's about all I'll say about it.
All right. And number two, if you had one message to the world, right? If you were to die tomorrow and this would be your final words, what would you say?
I think that at the end of the day, it just comes out to providing value to the world and to yourself. And I think the more that you focus on yourself and the more you build up yourself, the bigger of a value set that you could propose to the world. And over, my life, I've tried to define like what it was that I want to put out there. And I think I finally found it. And that's by getting together with people, making podcasts and putting awesome content out into the world and inspiring people to look into themselves, to look into the outside world, and to improve every single day.
100%. Love that. Love that. Well, much love, family. I hope you guys gained some value from this episode. And if nobody has told you lately, I am proud of you. Don't forget to follow me on the gram at Amir Sessions, as well as Ethan at Inspiration Podcast. And for y'all listeners that are not from the YouTube channel, make sure you guys tune in on both of ours. Mine's at Amir Sessions. I know Ethan's getting ready to start his up too, or he already has one. So link is going to be below in both of our podcasts. Let's get our shit together. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Peace out.